Hello, everybody. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Sophie, for that intro. That was lovely. So yeah, as Sophie said, my name is Alex. I run High Tide, and we're a production company, and we make TV ads, social content, branded films, and brand documentaries. Alongside doing Creative Mornings in 2017, we also started High Tide, me and my now husband. And we did it straight out of university, and really with the kind of question of like, well, we don't really want to get a job, like how hard can it be? And the answer is very difficult, and that is basically the theme of this talk. So there's been kind of like 4 versions of High Tide to date. So the first version was Ethan and I just running around like headless chickens, filming a lot of festivals and events. And then COVID happened, so we moved much more into branded content, and we hired 2 people, so we're now a team of 4. And then around 2023, things started to actually get really difficult, and that was like about a 1.5-year period. And now we are definitely coming out of that, and definitely in the 4th iteration of High Tide, which is, yeah, it's nice to be heading in that direction. So, when Sophie mentioned that a theme was crossroads, this switch game is what immediately came to my mind. So just to give you a quick summary of the game, each tile is like a jigsaw piece, and when you put them together, they form like a little crossroads. So you have to match the trees to the trees, the houses to the houses, the rivers to the rivers. And the concept is to build the map for as long as you possibly can, and for as beautifully as you can, to make it yeah, nice and big and nice and beautiful. But the one caveat to the game is that when you get a tile, you have to put it down, whether you like it or not, and you can't undo it. And this really got me thinking about my creative career around, you know, when you're in this industry, you've got to make a lot of decisions and quite quickly, and sometimes there are decisions that you don't want to make. So I'm going to use this game as a visual metaphor for the challenges that I'm going to talk to you about this morning. And yeah, hopefully it will help anybody in the room who feels a bit stuck get unstuck again. Okay, so creative careers, they're amazing, right? Like you can be adventurous, you know, you get to work with your friends, they're fulfilling. So can you put your hand up if you have found your creative career to be at least one of these things on the screen at some point? Okay, yeah, brilliant, right? And that's what it looks like from the outside. So it all looks amazing, everybody's having fun all the time. But also, put your hand up if you've ever found your creative career to be at least a bit hard. Okay, that makes me feel a bit better. So for me, this paradox really had made me feel quite a lot of guilt and a lot of shame when the times are hard, because people think like, oh, it's absolutely amazing and brilliant, and that you should be enjoying every single moment of it because you are lucky to be doing it. So today I'm not going to talk to you about the good times. I'm going to talk you through 3 main challenges that I've had actually over the last 2 years, and how I got unstuck from each one, and then how I managed to turn my little tiles round to fit my own map. Okay, so in summer 2023, we had a really good 2022. We'd grown quite a bit, but with about 4 or 5 main clients. And in July 2023, we pitched for this amazing job. It was going to be really big money. We were going to go traveling. It was all going to be great. And we pitched the job, and they told us in the room, "You've won it. All great." And then, long story, but a lot went wrong at the client's end, and basically they pulled the project. And we'd already hired Ross. So Ross had been working freelance for us before this, and then we gave him a job on this basis because we'd been told that we'd won the job. In this situation, like, it was such a confidence blow, but I kind of was like, right, okay, do all the sensible things. So we basically did a risk assessment and said, like, what are the steps that we would need to take if the business didn't do very well? And initially you think like that's a sensible thing to do, and it is, but it wasn't the only thing you should have done. I think the problem that I had when I did this, I actually started to believe that it would happen. So I ended up following it more as a vision rather than like a bit of a backup plan. And so really the lesson here is have a vision for what amazing looks like, even if it's not going well. And so when you play the game, when you have like the river on one side, the houses on another, the fields on another, once you've got a bit of a plan, it allows you to stay in the game for a bit longer. And so I think especially when times are rubbish, you need to plan what good looks like, rather than just planning what bad could look like. Okay, so challenge number 2. Challenge number 2 was a direct result of challenge number 1. It was about this time last year, about March last year, and ultimately we were thinking like, this business is going to go down the drain. Ethan and I were, awake in the middle of the night, just thinking, God, what are we going to do? And we knew that we couldn't afford to keep all 4 of us on the books, but I struggled to really face that problem. I knew I needed to sit down and do the maths of it, but I didn't want to do it. And the crossroad here was to close the business or not. I felt really, really stuck, and I only saw one option. And I think it's really important to stress here that even though it didn't feel like I had a choice, I definitely did have a choice. And the turnaround here was to be completely honest with the team. And with them, we shared what money looked like. And we all arranged to take a temporary pay cut together and really look at that vision of how we get through it. And that was, we only did that for not very long, actually, only a few weeks. But it really made a big impact. And the lesson here is sometimes there is a choice, even when it doesn't feel like it. And getting a fresh perspective mattered. So, to me, the obvious solution was to close the business. But actually there was this middle solution that actually worked well for everybody. And I thought the team would leave, and they're still with us. So in this example, at the water, I was trying to find a space for the water to go, but actually moving it onto the other side of the map and getting a fresh perspective was really what made it work. Okay, so the final challenge, which feels like nowhere near as big a one as the other 2, but actually it probably had much more of a longer impact, was the fact that because we'd had such a challenge in time, I'd come to work and I just had absolute crippling anxiety. Work became just this place of you had to be there rather than wanting to be there. And I felt stuck most days, actually. Confidence was low across the business. It just felt like we were there to just not let the business fail. We didn't have a reason to keep going. And my crossroads here was really, I had a choice to either stay in the same mindset or get out of it. And at the time, that didn't feel like a choice. It felt like I felt very, very stuck. But the turnaround here was to do something completely different, to take myself away from work. So I decided, right, I want to do a triathlon. That's something I've really wanted to do for a long time. And this gave me a purpose, and I'm raising money for charity for that, and I'm doing the triathlon on Sunday this weekend. So I'm really, really excited for it. But my lesson here was to be patient, to find something else to do, and your work isn't all of you. So in this example, I'm trying to, is it going? Oh yeah, it is. I'm trying to connect this field desperately to this bit of fields, but actually the solution is to go across the other side of the map and basically start the field's little mission again. And I suppose that in the map stuff, work isn't all of you. You can go and do something else that isn't just your work. It's not your identity, which I think a lot of people feel like it's their identity in the creative industries. And then sometimes, occasionally, in opportunities like these, after a really hard time, you get to stand back and admire the pretty picture that you've made, your map, and you realize that your map's actually made up of lots of tiny little choices, and you weren't really stuck at all, but you had all these tiny little choices along the way. And even though you were faced with these tiles and you had to put them down on the map, you could choose where they went, what direction they went in, and you could turn them a lot as well. And also looking at this, it made me realize that your map's never really finished. It's never something to complete and to be perfect. And I'm going to just end with this little video of this guy who explains getting unstuck very well, if I can use the mouse.
Maybe it's humping.
Feel stuck, or when you feel stuck, move forward to action, do something.
Yeah, if you're stuck, you have to do a pattern interrupt. You have to do something. And when you feel stuck, you don't feel like doing anything different. But the only way to get unstuck is to, upset the balance. And the way you upset the balance is by taking a contrary action. And when you don't feel like taking a contrary action, you have to remind yourself that mood follows action. And that you have to develop the reflex to act in spite of your resistance or emotional baggage around it. And the unstuckness is a byproduct of the action, not the other way around. So I think it's identifying one small thing that you could do that perhaps isn't so intimidating that you're going to resist it forever, and it's just doable enough to get you over the hump.
And then I just wanted to,
There's one audience
no.
question you can get to is how to get unstuck if you feel stuck.
Sorry, I can't see what I'm doing here. This one?
Yes.
Yes. And then we've just done a new show reel, and this feels like quite a big moment to be like, oh, we're still alive and we're still kicking. And actually most of this work has been made since we had this really rough time, and yes, really nice reflection. So I thought I'd end on a high because it's not all rubbish, Actually, we have a lot of fun in this business, and it's great. I'm going to do this wrong again. Just very quick shameless plug, because I'm doing this triathlon this weekend, I'm raising money for Campaign Against Living Miserably, which is a suicide prevention charity. And if anybody would like to donate, then here is the link. So, yeah, thank you all so much.